Vaticinus pros Elventos. Why, hello! Glad you could join me on this episode of Ancient New Testament Documents. Old Waldemar, he said you're interested, especially in the codices. The codices Sinaiticus, Vaticinus, and Alexandrinus. Well, let's get started. Waldemar, could you fetch me my book? Thank you. That's my good pupil Waldemar. He's been faithful to me all these years. Let's get started.
Now let's look at what a codex actually is. A codex really was the first book. It put large bodies of written material together in page-to-page form, which was better than the old scrolls they used to carry around. With the development of the codex, now the Old and the New Testament scriptures could be put together. They would bind them in leather or even wood. Before this, the Romans, they would just use them for their everyday purposes as notebooks. But now the Christians had a superior purpose for using codices. Now let's look at the Codex Alexandrinus. What we know about the Codex Alexandrinus is not very much, but we do know it was given by a guy named Cyril Lucar to King Charles in 1627. It's been in the British Library ever since. According to Scott McKendrick, Lucar could have acquired the Codex in Alexandria from among the thousands of books within the famous Library of Alexandria, but this cannot be proven. Now let's move on. Let's look at the Codex Sinaiticus. The Codex Sinaiticus is probably the most widely known New Testament manuscript in history. It's probably because of the amazing circumstances under which it was found. The Codex Sinaiticus was found by Constantine von Tischendorf. He traveled to St. Catherine's Monastery below Mount Sinai and discovered a stack of biblical manuscripts. These were manuscripts of the Septuagint. The monks there, they'd only let him take about 43 leaves, and he was ticked. So then Constantine went over to Russia, and he talked to the Tsar Alexander II, and he said, "Tsar, I can't get these valuable manuscripts. Will you come down and help me get them?" Wink, wink. So the Tsar accompanied him, and he got them all right. So a little piece of advice: if you want to get something done, take the Tsar with you. Next, we're going to look at the Codex Vaticinus. The Codex Vaticinus takes its name from the fact that it's been in the Vatican Library since 1475. It has also taken some great steps in history. Napoleon took it as a war prize, but returned it in 815. Constantine von Tischendorf, who actually discovered the Sinaiticus, he actually traveled to Vatican, but ruffled some feathers. The origins of Vaticinus are not known. Some people think Egypt, some Constantinople. But the Vaticinus, along with Sinaiticus, is an important codex holding both the Old and New Testaments. The dating of Vaticinus is thought to be around 350 AD. This is because an old guy named Athanasius put together a list of books of the Bible that he called the canon. Well, that's about it. In closing, these three magnificent documents are important because of their early attestation of the scriptures and the scope of what they contain. Studying their history is important because it shows the way in which God purposed their protection for their present use. These three manuscripts were not only impacting upon those who read them, but carry with them the weight of God's message to people today.
Well, wasn't that a trip? Learning about those old codexes really opens up the world of the Bible. Well, that's it for this episode of ancient New Testament documents. This is me, T.M. Hansen, and, in closing, I would just like to thank a few people. I would like to thank first old D.V. Hurst for letting me live down in the catacombs of his library. Then I would like to thank my good pupil Waldemar, who's been faithful to me. He's been helping me learn the German idiom, and he's been opening up the world of strange music to me. Well, have a good one. Proskai Thenes, X il Inthatas. Ha Pater.